Hello and welcome to another edition of ProtoMet's First Impressions, where I give my thoughts on the first episode of any new tokusatsu show. And a couple days ago, the Philippines got the first episode of their new tokusatsu series, Voltus 5 Legacy, based on the anime series Voltus 5. Apparently the Philippines has a bit of a history with Voltus 5, which I'm not terribly familiar with. I've actually never seen Voltus 5. So I don't know, but apparently there was enough of a history that this collaboration between a Philippine company and Toei resulted in this tokusatsu series. Alien invaders have come to Earth to invade, and the only way to stop them is with the secret weapon, a 5-jet team that can combine into a giant robot, Voltus 5. And that's basically the summary of the first episode. We get a bit introduced to the characters in the series, who all have European-sounding names. Like three of them are brothers with the last name Armstrong. It's a bit odd, but what's probably even odder, and this might just be a quirk of Philippines media that I'm just not aware of, since I don't watch it a lot, but for some reason, throughout the episode, characters would just switch between speaking in Philippine and English almost interchangeably. And while I'm somewhat familiar with, like, say, Japanese shows occasionally using English words, this one was more a case of, like, mid-sentence shifting. Like, say if I started speaking this sentence in English and then switched to Japanese. Maru de zuto nihongo wa hanashi te iru ka no yoni. It's jarring to the point where I actually had to look up how to say that last part just to get across how jarring it is. For the record, I said, as though I were speaking English from the beginning. Or the entire time. I put it into Bing Translator. I don't know if that's actually super accurate what I said, but hopefully it convinced you I was fluent, because I'm not. But the set design is pretty good. The costume design is pretty good. I'm trying to think of anything else to say. Some of the CGI work is a bit not great, especially towards the beginning of the episode. But when it comes to the actual, like, jet fighting UFOs, flying saucers bit, that one's okay. A nice touch is that while the characters are piloting their jets, somebody in, like, the command center tells them that they can activate their weapons through voice commands, which basically is a clever in-universe explanation for why they would just shout their attacks, a la, every other Super Robot show, instead of, just pushing any button like any other show. So, and it's a lot more plausible now that, voice commands are a thing. I mean, sure, we can't fire, like, giant boomerangs out of jets just by shouting it, but whatever. The jet versus flying saucer bit was pretty fun. The episode itself doesn't really give us an explanation for why the aliens are invading Earth, but the next episode preview decided to spoil pretty much the whole thing. And I'm not going to say what the reason is. For starters, I'm just kind of glad that the show actually gives them a reason for wanting to conquer Earth, rather than just them being, generic villains who are trying to conquer Earth. There's actually some reason, but again, that's technically next episode's problem. And I'm only talking about the first episode. Towards the end of the episode, the villains released their monster. I think the Earthlings call it a battle beast, or maybe it's a fighting beast. And I like that the leader of the alien invasion force is like, they somehow get a newsfeed up from Earth, and hear the term being used, and it's like, hey, I like that. Let's just keep using that to refer to our monsters, which are just giant robots. The villain's flagship is basically Unicron's head from the 3rd season of Transformers. So it's just a head with horns. The monster that they send out, Doku Gaga, I think, is basically Unicron with clamps for hands. I mean, he's got the wings, he's got the horns, he's even got a mouth. I mean, look at it, it's like, that thing just looks like a smaller version of Unicron with clamps for hands. And in order to combat it, the team has to combine their mecha to form the titular Voltus 5, which looks absolutely fantastic. The whole thing is rendered using CGI, both Voltus 5 and the Fighting Beast, or whatever they called it. I'm not super familiar with the terms. Maybe it's something that I'd be more familiar with if I actually watched the original show. But the CGI work looks fine. Everything is kind of a bit slow, but it's kind of in the Pacific Rim realistic weight type of feel, which I'm okay with. I do think some of it could have looked better if it were faster, but that's a nitpick. And the episode ends before the actual fight. It's like just as Voltus 5 and the giant monster are about to throw down. But it did include what I can assume is a cover of the original show's opening theme during the combination sequence and at the end of the episode in what I guess is the opening credits sequence proper. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the second episode, which apparently came out like the day after the first episode. And apparently, the first episode came out Monday, and now they're already up to episode 3, which came out today. It's like, I do want to keep watching this and seeing how this plays out, but if it's releasing on a daily schedule, I may just wait until the entire thing is done before watching more of it. Because honestly, if it were a daily thing, I think that would even burn out the fan subbers who are working on it. And considering how jarring it was for like the characters to just randomly switch over to English, like I previously mentioned. I mean, I'm glad I was reading it with subtitles so that I could actually, pay attention to what was being said. Especially since some of the English lines were delivered with enough of an accent to kind of obscure what it was they were actually saying. I mean, for the most part, it's actually pretty darn good English. I mean, that's surprising. I did not expect so much fluent English to show up in this Philippine show. Granted, I'm not super familiar with Philippine show. Maybe that's a super common occurrence. But part of me thinks like maybe they did it to attempt to appeal to an English-speaking audience, but that would just be me speculating, especially considering that this is a Philippine show based on a Japanese cartoon. Maybe it's a bit of a stretch to think that way. But yeah, I'm certainly gonna check out more episodes, but probably pace myself a bit better. Don't want to burn out on Voltus 5 super early, especially considering how new it is. It's like, ooh. But yeah, it certainly looks good. I will admit that the CGI work used for Voltus 5 and the Fighting Beast look actually, I would honestly say, better than what Super Sentai is currently using for its mecha fights, which is saying quite a bit considering that it's Super Sentai, which you'd think Toei would be putting more focus on having those shows look good. But again, this one actually looks really good. Like apparently prior to this, like sometime last month, they actually released a theatrical version that covered apparently the first 15 episodes of this show. That's just me finding that on the Wikipedia page for this show. I don't know how accurate that is because anybody can say anything. Like, just me. I can go on the internet and say anything, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'd say, yeah, give Voltus 5 Legacy a watch. I'm definitely going to keep watching, though I might try to pace myself a bit more and as a result wind up falling behind. But, you know, maybe it'll follow the more traditional Monster of the Week formula that a lot of super robot animes did back in the day, and which Super Sentai still does. So hopefully it's a case where I could skip some episodes and not fall too far behind. But anyway, yeah, give Voltus 5 Legacy a shot. It's pretty good from what I've seen so far. So until next time, I'm ProtoMet. See ya.